In this video, we will learn 10 new words through short stories. It might seem like a small step, but in 100 days, you will easily learn 1,000 words, which is a big achievement. To help you learn better, please watch each video twice. At the end of the video, try to make your own sentences using the new words you've learned. Stay with us and let's explore today's new words. The town hall meeting. I live in a small village called Green Valley. One day, the mayor called a town hall meeting. Something important was happening. Everyone in the village came to the meeting. The big question was, should we build a new school? The mayor said, we must reach a consensus, a decision that everyone agrees on. Let's talk about it. First, the farmers spoke. We need a school for our children, said Mrs. Brown. Education is important. But Mr. White, the shopkeeper, said, I think it's too expensive. We don't have enough money. The villagers argued for a long time. Some wanted the school. Others thought it was a bad idea. The room became noisy. Everyone shouted their opinions. There was no consensus. The mayor stood up and said, please, let's listen to each other. A consensus means finding a solution together. Then Sarah, a young girl, raised her hand. Excuse me, she said. I want to go to school. But I also understand we need money. Can we work together to solve this? The room became quiet. Sarah's words made people think. The villagers started talking calmly. Mr. White said, what if we build a small school first? It will cost less money. Mrs. Brown agreed. Yes, a small school is better than no school. Finally, after hours of discussion, everyone agreed. There was a consensus to build a small school. People smiled and shook hands. The mayor said, thank you, Sarah, for helping us find a consensus. This is what teamwork looks like. That day, I learned something important. A consensus is not just about winning an argument. It's about listening, understanding, and working together. And now, whenever I see the little school in Green Valley, I remember the power of consensus. The family dinner. Last night, my family had a big dinner. Everyone was happy at first. My mom made her famous pasta, and my dad brought a cake. We were all laughing and eating. But then, something happened. My sister, Emily, said, I think we should get a dog. My brother Tom shook his head. No, a dog is too much work. I think we should get a cat. That's when the disagreement started. Emily said, dogs are loyal and fun. They are better than cats. Tom replied, cats are clean and quiet. Dogs are too noisy. The disagreement grew louder. My mom tried to calm them down. She said, Emily, Tom, please don't fight. We are having dinner. But they didn't stop. Emily said, you don't understand, Tom. Dogs make people happy. Tom shouted back, and you don't understand me. I don't want a dog. The disagreement made everyone feel uncomfortable. My dad looked worried. This is just a small thing, he said. Why are you making it so big? But Emily and Tom didn't listen. Their disagreement got worse. Emily started crying, and Tom crossed his arms. Finally, I spoke up. Why don't we agree on something? How about a fish instead of a dog or a cat? They both stopped and looked at me. Emily wiped her tears. A fish? She asked. Tom thought for a moment. I guess that's okay, he said. After that, the disagreement ended. Everyone smiled, and the dinner felt happy again. My mom said, "Good job finding a solution." Later, I realized something. A disagreement doesn't have to ruin everything. If we listen and think carefully, we can solve it. Now we have a fish named Bubbles. And every time I see him, I remember that even a big disagreement can have a happy ending.
The English Class Challenge. Last week, our English teacher, Ms. Carter, gave us a difficult assignment. She handed each of us a famous quote and said, "Your task is to paraphrase this quote. You must explain it in your own words." First, I thought it would be easy. My quote was, "The only limit to our realization of tomorrow is our doubts of today." But when I tried to paraphrase it, I felt stuck. I raised my hand. "Ms. Carter, what does paraphrase mean again?" She smiled and said, "To paraphrase means to take someone's words and say them in a new way. You keep the meaning, but you use your own words." I nodded and tried again. I wrote, "We can achieve anything tomorrow if we stop doubting ourselves today." I showed it to Ms. Carter. She said, "Good. That's a perfect paraphrase." My best friend Lily was struggling too. Her quote was, "Knowledge is power." She whispered to me, "How do I paraphrase something so short?" I told her, maybe say, "If you learn more, you become stronger." That's a paraphrase of the idea. Lily smiled and wrote it down. Ms. Carter read it and said, "Yes, Lily. You've paraphrased it very well." At the end of class, Ms. Carter said, "Today you all learned a powerful skill. When you paraphrase, you show that you understand the meaning behind the words. And that's very important." Later, I realized how useful paraphrasing is. It helps us explain things in simpler ways. It also helps us remember what we learn. Now, whenever I read something difficult, I practice paraphrasing it. It's like turning hard words into easy ones. And thanks to Ms. Carter, I know how to do it well.
The Mystery of the Lost Necklace. One summer evening, my grandmother told me a story about her most precious necklace. She said, "It disappeared many years ago. No one knows what happened to it." I was curious and asked her for more elaboration. She smiled. The necklace was a family heirloom. It was made of gold and had a small diamond in the center. One morning I went to wear it, but it was gone. "Gone? What do you mean?" I asked. "With no elaboration, it's hard to explain," she said. But I remember the day clearly. The necklace was on my dresser. Then it wasn't. I wanted to solve the mystery. "Can you give more elaboration about that day?" I asked. Grandma thought for a moment. "I was in a rush to meet a friend. When I came back, the dresser drawer was open. But I don't know who opened it." Her elaboration helped me imagine the scene. I asked more questions. "Did anyone visit the house that day? Was there anything unusual?" Grandma nodded. "Now that you ask, the gardener was trimming the roses near my window. That's all I remember. I needed more details." "Grandma, your elaboration is helping me figure this out. What did the gardener say?" She laughed. I never asked him. Maybe he saw something, but I didn't think to ask for an elaboration back then. I felt excited. Grandma, we need to solve this mystery together. Your story shows how important elaboration is. Without details, it's hard to understand what happened. She smiled. You're right. Let's ask the gardener, even after all these years. The next day we found him. His elaboration revealed the truth. He had found the necklace in the grass and kept it safe all these years. Now, the necklace is back with my grandma, and I learned that elaboration, the extra details, can solve even the biggest mysteries. This story highlights the importance of elaboration in a dramatic and engaging way while helping beginners understand its meaning through repetition and context.
The missing painting. It was a quiet morning at the art gallery where I work. Everything seemed normal until I noticed that the most valuable painting was missing. Shocked, I quickly made an inquiry to the security team. Where is the painting from the main hall? I asked. The head of security, Mr. Brown, replied. We have no record of anyone taking it. I'll start an inquiry immediately. I decided to help. My first inquiry was with the janitor. Did you see anyone near the painting last night? I asked. He shook his head. No, but I heard a strange noise near the main hall. This piece of information made me curious. My next inquiry was with the gallery's night guard. He seemed nervous. I didn't notice anything unusual, he said, avoiding my eyes. Are you sure? I pressed. This is an important inquiry. The painting is worth millions. Finally, the police arrived to begin their own inquiry. They questioned everyone, checked the cameras, and looked for clues. During their inquiry, they found a small piece of torn fabric near the display case. The officer in charge made an inquiry about the fabric. Does this belong to anyone here? He asked. I noticed the night guard's uniform had a similar tear. With further inquiry, the truth came out. The night guard admitted he had taken the painting to sell it. He led us to the place where he had hidden it. When the painting was safely returned, the police officer said, "This was a successful inquiry. Every question helped us find the truth." From that day, I learned the power of an inquiry. Asking the right questions can solve mysteries, uncover the truth, and make the impossible possible.
The debate championship. I was nervous as I stood on the stage for the school debate championship. The topic was difficult. Should students wear uniforms? My team was against the idea, and I was the final speaker. My job was to give the rebuttal, to argue against what the other team had just said. The opposing team's leader stood confidently and said, "Uniforms help students focus on their studies and not on their clothes." Their argument was strong, but I was ready with my rebuttal. I stepped forward and said, "That's a good point, but my rebuttal is this. Uniforms are expensive, and not every family can afford them. This creates more problems, not fewer." The audience clapped, but the opposing team wasn't finished. They said, "Uniforms create equality among students. No one feels left out because of what they wear." I took a deep breath and gave another rebuttal. Equality isn't just about clothes. True equality comes from respecting each other, no matter what we wear. My rebuttal is that uniforms don't solve deeper issues. The debate continued, and each side had strong arguments. But with every point they made, I had a rebuttal ready. Uniforms are practical, they said. My rebuttal: students should also learn to make choices, including what to wear. Finally, the judges announced the winner. The best team is the team against uniforms. Their clear arguments and strong rebuttals convinced us. My heart raced with joy. Our rebuttals had won the debate. Later, my teacher said, "A good rebuttal isn't just about disagreeing. It's about giving reasons that explain why you think differently. And you did that perfectly today." Now I always remember, a rebuttal is not just a response. It's a smart way to show another side of the story. This story uses rebuttal repeatedly in a dramatic, educational context, ensuring the audience understands its meaning as a response with reasons against an argument.
The mysterious light. One evening, as I walked home from work, I saw a strange light in the sky. It was bright blue and moved quickly. Everyone on the street stopped to look. The air was filled with speculation. "Is it a UFO?" one man asked. "No," another replied. "My speculation is that it's a military drone." The light flashed again, and now it was red. This only increased the speculation. A group of children nearby said, "Maybe it's a sign from aliens." Their wild speculation made me laugh, but I couldn't explain the light either. At home, I turned on the news. The reporters were full of speculation too. One said, "This could be a meteor." But another speculation is that it's a secret space experiment. My friend Sarah called me. "Did you see the light?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "What's your speculation?" Sarah thought for a moment. "I think it's a weather balloon. But who knows? Speculation is just guessing when we don't have all the facts." The next day, the whole town was talking about the light. The speculation had grown even wilder. Some people said it was a warning about climate change. Others said it was part of a movie being filmed nearby. Finally, the mystery was solved. A scientist on the news explained, "The light was caused by a rare atmospheric event. It's not dangerous, and it's not a UFO." All the speculation ended, and everyone laughed at their wild guesses. I told Sarah, "This shows how much people love speculation. When we don't know the truth, we create stories to explain things." Sarah replied, "Yes, but now we've learned something new. And that's better than just speculation."
The lost wallet. Last Saturday, I was walking in the park when I saw a wallet on the bench. I picked it up and looked inside. There was no ID, only cash. My first assumption was that someone rich had dropped it, but I wasn't sure. I saw a man nearby, pacing nervously. My assumption was that he had lost the wallet. I approached him and asked, "Excuse me, is this your wallet?" He looked surprised and said, "No, but I saw a woman sitting on that bench earlier. Maybe it's hers." His assumption seemed logical, so I waited at the bench, hoping the woman would return. After 10 minutes, a jogger came by. She saw me holding the wallet and said, That's mine. My assumption was that she was telling the truth. But when I asked her to describe the wallet, she hesitated. It's black, right? It wasn't. My assumption was wrong, she wasn't the owner. I decided to take the wallet to the park office. On my way, I saw a little boy crying. His mother was comforting him. My assumption was that he had lost something important. When I approached, the mother said, "He dropped his wallet while playing. Did you find one?" I smiled and handed it to her. She opened it and said, "Yes, this is it." Thank you. My earlier assumptions had been wrong, but this time I had found the right owner. Later, I thought about how many assumptions I had made that day. Some were correct, but many were not. I realized that an assumption is just a guess. It's not always the truth. This story uses assumption in various contexts, helping learners understand that it means believing something is true without proof. It emphasizes how assumptions can be right or wrong, depending on the situation.
The unexpected engagement. I was sitting in my favorite cafe, sipping coffee, when I noticed a small crowd forming near the window. There was laughter and clapping. Curious, I went closer to see what was happening. A man was down on one knee, holding a ring. It was an engagement proposal. Everyone around cheered as the woman said, "Yes!" Watching their happy moment, I thought about my friend Emily. She had recently ended her engagement. She told me, an engagement is not just about love. It's about commitment, trust, and understanding. Later that day, Emily called me. "You won't believe it," she said. "I've been invited to plan an event for a big company. They want to improve customer engagement." "Customer engagement?" I asked. "Yes," she explained. "It's about how they connect with their customers. They want people to feel involved and interested." I smiled. "Emily, you're perfect for this. Your creativity will make their engagement plan amazing." Over the next week, Emily worked hard. She told me, an engagement, whether it's in business or relationships, requires effort. You have to keep people interested. On the day of her presentation, I went to support her. She started with a question. "What does engagement mean to you?" Some said it meant a promise, like in a wedding engagement. Others said it meant participation or being involved. Emily nodded. "You're all correct. Engagement is about connection. Whether it's with a person or an audience, it's about keeping the spark alive." Her presentation was a success. Later, she said, "Today reminded me that even though my engagement didn't work out, life offers other ways to create meaningful connections." I realized that the word engagement has many meanings, but at its core, it's about commitment and involvement, whether in love, work, or life.
The importance of being punctual. I remember the day I learned how important it is to be punctual. It was my first job interview, and I was so nervous. The company had a strict rule. Everyone must be punctual. I told myself, I cannot be late. That morning, I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I wanted to be punctual, so I planned everything carefully. But then, disaster struck. My alarm didn't ring. I woke up at 7:15 a.m. My interview was at 8 a.m., and the office was far away. I panicked, grabbed my bag, and ran. On the way, I kept thinking, if I'm not punctual, they won't hire me. I finally arrived at 8:10 a.m., out of breath. The receptionist frowned and said, "You're late." The manager values punctual people. I felt so embarrassed. When the manager finally called me in, the first question he asked was, "Why weren't you punctual?" I explained about my alarm, but he didn't look happy. "Being punctual isn't just about setting an alarm," he said. "It's about responsibility. If you're not punctual, you waste others' time." I apologized and promised to be more punctual in the future. He sighed and said, "We'll give you a chance, but remember, this company runs on being punctual." From that day, I made being punctual my top priority. Whether it's for work, meeting friends, or catching a train, I always plan ahead. Now I even arrive 10 minutes early to everything. Looking back, I'm grateful for that experience. It taught me that being punctual shows respect for others and for yourself. So, if you're ever tempted to be late, remember, being punctual can change your life.